But first, it was a victory lap for Prime Minister Modi in Delhi this evening as he was congratulated by party leaders for the massive election wins, especially the landslide in Uttar Pradesh. In his address, interestingly, the Prime Minister said that he saw a new India for the youth and pledged a new India by 2022. That means he's setting himself a new target beyond the next Lok Sabha polls of 2019.
एक नए हिंदुस्तान के दर्शन हो रहे हैं मुझे। न्यू इंडिया 65% 35 साल से कम उम्र के नौजवानों के सपनों का न्यू इंडिया। ऐसा न्यू इंडिया जो देश के गरीबों में कुछ पाने की इच्छा के बजाय कुछ करने की इच्छा के लिए, अवसर के लिए खोज, ये अपने आप में एक बहुत बड़ा बदलाव है। गरीब कहता है मैं अपने बलबूते पर आगे जाना चाहता हूं, आप मेरे लिए अवसर उपलब्ध करा दीजिए, मेहनत मैं करूंगा। विजय भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लिए जनता जनार्दन का एक पवित्र आदेश होता है, आदेश। और मैं आदेश पर बल देता हूं। इस चुनाव के नतीजे हमारे लिए एक इमोशनल इश्यू भी है। इसलिए है कि यह वर्ष पंडित दीनदयाल उपाध्याय जी की जन्मशती का वर्ष है। इतने बड़े आशीर्वाद हमें दीनदयाल जी का अंत्योदय का जो आदेश है, चिंतन है, गरीबों का कल्याण, गरीब में सामर्थ्य मैं देख पाता हूं। मैं देश के गरीबों की शक्ति को पहचान पाता हूं और राष्ट्र के भविष्य के निर्माण में जितना ज्यादा गरीबों को अवसर मिलेगा, उतना ज्यादा देश तेज गति से आगे बढ़ेगा। गरीब अगर शिक्षित होगा तो समाज को ज्यादा परिणाम देगा। गरीब को अगर कार्य का अवसर मिला तो देश के लिए ज्यादा करके दिखाएगा। और इस देश की एक सबसे बड़ी ताकत वो हमारे देश का गरीब है। कभी कभी आज मध्यम वर्ग के लोगों को ज्यादा बोझ झेलना पड़ता है। एक बार देश के गरीब के अंदर खुद का बोझ उठाने की ताकत आ जाएगी, इस देश के मध्यम वर्ग का बोझ पूरी तरह हट जाएगा।
Well, a lot of political developments happening as we speak. The BJP's big decision-making body, its key decision-making body, which is called the Parliamentary Board, has just finished meeting and has endorsed Manohar Parrikar to go back to Goa as Chief Minister. We have Rahul Srivastav joining us to talk about that. Also with us, Anand Zanane from Goa, where Mr. Parrikar and Nitin Gadkari, Senior Union Minister, also addressed the press just a little while ago. And my colleague Ratnadeep joins us from Imphal, where he is tracking the developments in Manipur, where again the BJP has actually outwitted the Congress and gone ahead and managed to get the support of smaller parties. But Rahul, to you first. We do know that this meeting was primarily also to discuss the chief ministership in Uttar Pradesh. Right now, of course, Goa making headlines. Tell us what exactly the logic is behind sending Mr. Parrikar back.
Nidhi, as you recall, during the election campaign also, there was strong message from the BJP there that somewhere there is a demand among the electorate that Manohar Parrikar, the current defence minister, should return as the chief minister or should have been the chief ministerial face of the BJP. And perhaps to give that stimulus to the election campaign in the state, can recall that leaders like Nitin Gadkari and others had started giving subtle hints that Manohar Parrikar could well be back as the Chief Minister of the BJP. Now the BJP faces a slightly different situation altogether. The situation is, one, both in the case of Manipur and Goa, the BJP is in touching distance as far as power is concerned, and provided the MLAs, stray elements, support the BJP to power. The idea is to keep the Congress out of power in both the states so that the BJP can eventually say that the party has managed 4 states, not just 2, as far as Uttarakhand and UP are concerned. And that is why the BJP realizes that in a fragile political situation in which the party will be depending on support of independents and others, the BJP realizes that it's better that somebody who is an experienced hand, more popular in Goa, like Manohar Parrikar, goes back to Goa. And that is why the BJP is maneuvering. Today, when the observers sent out a report to the Central Parliamentary Board of the BJP, which was meeting, the report was extremely clear that the MLAs have gone ahead, met the governor, the outside support is coming, but the condition and underline to all this is that Manohar Parrikar should be the legislature party leader for the BJP. And the decision, the report came to the parliamentary board, and top leaders have told us that that decision has been endorsed. What it means that Manohar Parrikar will be returning to Goa, and it is just a matter of time that all the other formalities are wrapped up. The BJP hopes that Manohar Parrikar will be able to provide much greater stability to a government which will be dependent on fragile numbers in Goa than anybody else.
Right.
Beyond that, on Uttar Pradesh and other states, the BJP has decided that observers will be going, and eventually a decision on who will be the Chief Minister in these 2 states will be taken.
All right, Rahul, I'm going to come back to you on UP in just a moment, but I just want to go across to Anant first in Goa on what's happening there. Anant, how was the BJP really able to outmaneuver the Congress here? The Congress, the single largest party in Goa, was certainly hoping to be able to form the government there, and they didn't even stake claim. They didn't even go to the governor with any numbers. So the BJP has managed to do that in both Goa and Manipur. How did they do it in Goa?
Well, the Congress was really trying to find a chief ministerial candidate, and that is something that they couldn't do. They even conducted what is called a secret ballot between all the MLAs, but nothing really happened after that. Digvijay Singh came out and said we are working on it. But yes, the BJP outmaneuvered the Congress because, they very strategically, interestingly, brought a UP MP, Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, to negotiate with, Mr. Vijay Sardesai, who both of them are, part of the Wrestling Federation. So that personal connect helped them reach out to the, Sardesais and also forge this alliance with Goa Forward, which perhaps held the key to forming the government in Goa, because they were the ones who till the very last moment, Nidhi, were indecisive about which way they wanted to go. If they would have gone with the Congress would have had, a clear majority. But now deciding to go with the BJP, saying that it seems like a stronger political formation for them to be a part of, considering also the fact that the BJP rules in the center, and Goa is a state which is heavily dependent on central, aid and the centrally oriented schemes. So that is how, there was a UP connection to even how Goa, is now forming its government.
Anand, thanks for that update. Let me just go across to Ratnadeep now in Manipur. And Ratnadeep, what's the story there? Because it seems that the BJP has touched that halfway mark of 31 MLAs and one Congress MLA has also crossed over to their side.
Absolutely, Nidhi. In fact, today was a day of high political drama in Manipur. In the morning, both BJP and Congress claimed that they have numbers. But by the evening, the BJP could manage the support of NPP, the NPF and the LJP, all NDA constituent. And by the time they reached the Raj Bhavan here behind me to stake claims, they had one Congress MLA, Shyam Kumar, from the Andhra constituency with them. So that is how they made the figure of 31. And what we are hearing from our sources that more Congress MLAs, newly elected Congress MLAs, are ready to join the BJP. That is a big political development which is coming out of Manipur after the state gave a fractured verdict. And this morning, of course, the BJP and the Congress also had a high political drama at the Imphal airport, where both the parties alleged and counter-alleged that independent MLA has been kidnapped. The Congress says that the moment he landed in Imphal airport, the CISF detained him and helped the BJP to send him back somewhere else through a chartered aircraft. The BJP says no, that is not the case. The independent MLA was coming to support BJP, but the Congress tried to kidnap them. That kidnapping, by the time that kidnapping drama ended, we saw that Congress MLA has switched over. Nidhi?
All right, well, never a dull moment in Indian politics. Thank you to you all for joining us on those developing stories. And let's go straight across to our panelists tonight. We have Siddharth Nath Singh, the newly elected MLA from Allahabad, joining us on the program this evening. Congratulations to you, Siddharth Nath Singh. Mr. GVL Rao, national spokesperson of the BJP, is with us as well. Mr. Ashwini Kumar, former Law Minister of India, and Prashant Jha and Aarti Jairath, two journalists who travelled extensively through UP. Prashant has lost so much weight after being there for more than a month that you can see he's still visibly tired, having crisscrossed the state. But Siddharth Nath Singh, let me ask you first, on UP, your name is also doing the rounds as a possible contender for the Chief Minister's post, Mr. Singh. Are you in the running? Are you going to at least admit that you're in the running?
Well, you know, Nidhi, you all have covered BJP so well. There is a procedure. I don't need to give that procedure. Then you will say, you know, that's only for the media consumption. I think these are speculative names, and then you know, it comes around from somewhere. It does come, then the media then catches on. But what I feel is that BJP has leaders, and there are a number of leaders who could be the chief ministerial candidate, and the media is accepting them, and everybody has their own merits. So I don't know about myself, because nobody has spoken, and my focus has been only in winning the election, and which I have done. And certainly, let me add, it's been a very difficult election for me, because this seat BJP has never won. So I'm very happy that I've been able to do that. And beyond that, I'm coming tomorrow because I have a task ahead, which is looking after the two states and what I'm doing as a spokesperson.
Well, Siddharth, let me ask you that were you also surprised by just the scale of this victory? And you know, tonight we heard the Prime Minister in his victory speech setting a target of 2022, which I found really interesting because now he's not even talking about 2019. He's talking about pledging a new India for 2022. Do you think that this has given the BJP a huge boost in a sense? Perhaps it's an even bigger victory than 2014 and has given the party a new goal to perhaps look at being here, you know, for the next 8 years, 10 years?
Well, Nidhi, 2014 was an election where India was looking for a change. They wanted a leader, and India was ambitious. The Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, came as a leader who can satisfy their appetite, and they believed in that. Then 3 years down the line, UP elections were always very important, like any other state election, but UP was very, very important for us. And there has been a lot of central schemes which we could deliver down, and particularly where I've come, in the Dalit areas, there has been large number of toilets which have been built up. Ujjwala has been a great success, well, I can say about my constituency, and I presume it's been there in other constituencies also. So these are the good schemes which the Prime Minister brought in, the government, central government brought in, and the people of UP accepted that BJP can be the alternate for development in Uttar Pradesh. So it has now given us a real a boost to go ahead with what we wish to do on the development front. So I think it's a great morale booster. It's a great achievement for the central government and the BJP as such, that yes, we are a party which is being now recognized and appreciated. So I would say yes, it has given us that impetus which we were looking in the middle of our term, the central term, which is for the Modi government. So I think it is a great movement.
So let me take what you're saying to Dr. Ashwini Kumar here. Do you agree with that, that this has you know, actually set the BJP on a different course altogether? It's now not just about what's going to happen in 2019, it's beyond that, and is that the sense you got from Mr. Modi's speech as well tonight?
Well, quite clearly, this is Prime Minister Modi's moment of glory. He has the stage, he has the words, he has the vote. and he has used it to full effect. And you are absolutely right. He is not only setting the agenda for 2019, but by talking of 2022, he is setting the agenda for 2024. And also, one of the most important features of his speech that I could notice was that he is reaching out and appealing to the entire electorate. He is, in fact, for the sake of reaching out, he is saying that governments are meant for everyone and they are not meant only for those who vote for a particular party in government. Now, on the face of it, he is making all the right noises, he is saying all the right things. He is clearly setting a larger agenda than one can locate in the traditional vote bank or vote base of the BJP, which of course has got enlarged. That takes me to the more important question. The question is, what is going to be the alternative political narrative in this country, and who will forge it, and around what issues and individuals can we forge it? This is a huge challenge to those who oppose Mr. Modi's leadership as a person and who oppose the political ideology which he represents. Today, therefore, there is an absolute urgency to revisit the way the opposition has done its politics and the way the people of India are responding to different people. For example, the response to the BJP and Prime Minister Modi has surpassed even their own expectations. So something is happening on the ground which needs to be gauged with precision, and only then can the opposition come up with a winning strategy.
I think that's a very important point, and I want to come back to that in more detail. And I just want to come back to Siddharth Nath Singh, who has to leave very shortly. So, Siddharth, I just wanted to ask you though that when you get a mandate like this, like when you did in 2014, and then you get a massive mandate like this in UP, the expectations are also greater. And therefore, would you concede that there will be expectations, for instance, that the government should now push through reforms if it's going to have better numbers in the Rajya Sabha and so on, that the government has to seize the moment and really do whatever it can? That also is a risk, isn't it?
Well, Niti, there are two sides to it. Now, one is what we have already set at the center, and we had certain issues with the upper house, and with UP coming in such a large number, I think there will be corrections which will be in our favor in the upper house. So whatever we have set in, the speed and the smoothness would be there in the upper house and the parliament, and we will be able to push that. Now, the challenge which comes and the risk, because there is an expectation in Uttar Pradesh, and that's I would add on, is that 2 years from here we go into 2019 and UP has given us 73 seats. Now the challenge to us is the mandate of UP is for development, because they were tired of certain non-performances and the Gundaraj and the corruption and all these things we have spoken in the election. So for us is the risk that we have to accept that challenge, go ahead, deliver, and that would be also add on to 2019. So yes, it's a challenge. I won't call it a risk, but I'll say it's a challenge. And a leader like Modi ji, he inspires all of us who will be in the assembly to face this challenge and go ahead and deliver it. So we are ready with that, and
okay.
I'm sure with a lot of guidance coming from our seniors, we'll be able to deliver that.